Alrighty, y'all. Seems like we're kind of back in business here. So, I'm gonna keep going. Um, so I believe where I left off talking about is that we can now break this down so that we have the square root of 36 times the square root of 3. That's that, like I said before on the last slide, that's that product property of square roots. So you can break that down to the square root of 36 and the square root of 3, and that's just going to turn that into 6 root 3. Okay, so that would be your solution. That would be your final answer. That's what the book would want to see for your answer in the, yeah. Ooh, okay, well, that's good to know. Alrighty, the next example that we are going to look at here is this 9. Yeah, that's probably a better idea to do that. Okay, so the next example we're looking at here is this square root of 9x cubed. Okay, now we're all very well aware, we just wrote down all of those perfect squares on the other slide, and that's right off to the left for you guys. We know that 9 is a perfect square, so we can just kind of break this out into a couple of different things. The other piece here that we need to be aware of is this square root of x cubed. Okay, so the square root of x cubed. What we want to do here is we want to change this so that we have it in like groups of 2. So we only have one group of 2 here. Like if I break this down, so there's 2 of the x's, excuse me, and there's the third one. So I'm going to break this down to the square root of x squared and the square root of x to the first. This square root of x squared, what ends up happening is this stuff just cancels each other out, so you're just left with x. Okay, so that's what this step right here is talking about. We're going to break this up into the square root of 9, as it shows you, and then we're going to do the square root of x squared, and then the square root of x. Okay, now these two pieces right here, those are going to simplify very, very nicely. Square root of 9 is going to turn into the square root of 3, or excuse me, not the square root of 3, just 3. The square root of x squared is going to turn into x. But this square root of x, you can't do anything to it. You can't simplify it. Okay, so that just kind of has to stay as it is. Okay, so that's for that one. That stuff must have just shifted down. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to do letters C and D. There it is. Okay. We're going to do letters C and D. So first off, with that quotient property, like I talked about, you have the right as a mathematician to break that up. So what they're going to do is their first step is they're just going to break this up into the square root of 15 and then the square root of 64. Okay. Lucky part for us, we remember that we cannot have a square root in the denominator, but we notice that 64 is a perfect square already. So that's actually going to simplify down for us really, really nicely just into, so the square root of 64 is going to turn into 8 and the square root of 15. Now keep in mind, this square root of 15, right now, there is no perfect square inside of there, so we don't have to simplify that at all, okay? But let's say you were given something like, so instead of this being the square root of 15, let's say this was the square root of 20 over the square root of 64, okay? Then you're going to have to do a little bit more. Square root of 64, boom, we just talked about that. That's going to turn into 8. This square root of 20, you might have to break it down into the square root of 4 and the square root of 5, okay? It's not always going to be super, super nice and easy like that. Be prepared for some challenge questions like this. And then this you would have to simplify just a little bit further so that it would be the square root of 5 over 4. And then that would be your ending answer. Okay, next example. Again, they kind of just throw you a bone here. The square root of 81, that's going to change really nicely. Again, that's one of your perfect square numbers, so that's just going to turn into 9. And then the square root of x squared, again, we talked about that on the last slide. The square root of x squared is just going to, well, that's a funky looking 2. that's just going to turn into x, so your denominator is just going to be x. Okay, so I'm going to go through, if you want to, jump down and do the first 4 problems, because the first 4, I believe, are all just like A and B. And if you even want to flip over to the next page and try 5 through 8, those are exactly like letters C and D. Okay, so just as a quick recap, these 2 examples, A and B, are numbers 1 through 4. And then these 2 examples are numbers 5 through 8. So make sure you get those done. My goal with the rest of this video is to do E, F, G, and H. So I want to do, if this is going to move for me now. And great. I want to do E, F, G, and H. And then hopefully, if my technology continues working with me, on the next page I want to do letters A and B. But that's all going to be a little bit contingent on this technology working with me, and if it's not going to or not. Okay, so, okay, sorry guys, it looks like it's not working with me again. Hang on, you're going to have to go to another video. So I'm going to stop this one, upload this one, and then I'll do G, F, E, F, G, and H on a separate video, and then we're going to be done. Okay, so go ahead, try the first 8 problems, and then I'll do the next 4 on a separate video, and you can do 9 through 12 on your own, and then we'll kind of be done with this. Sorry.